where he had already successfully cleared those he called the natives of the forest. There were people more humane than Stephen Austin, like George Washington, who felt that, in his words, the gradual extension of our settlements will as certainly cause the savage as the wolf to retire, both being beasts of prey, though they differ in shape. Thomas Jefferson advised that the backward tribes at the borders will relapse into barbarism and misery, lose numbers by war and want, and we shall be obliged to drive them with the beasts of the forests into the stony mountains. Meanwhile, all blacks would be removed to Africa, Jefferson said, leaving the country without blot or mixture, or to Haiti, which Abraham Lincoln recognized in 1862, in part for the same reason. A modern rendition of all of this is given by a contemporary standard history of American diplomacy published in 1969, Thomas Bailey, where we read that after winning their independence, Americans concentrated on the task of felling trees and Indians and of rounding out their natural boundaries. Well, like Adam Smith, Thomas Jefferson was a man of enlightenment and humanity, representing the heights of European civilization. Exploring further, we reach the great thinker who discoursed authoritatively on the same topics in his lectures on philosophy of history a half a century later, in 1830, as we approach what he called the final phase of world history, when spirit reaches its full maturity and strength in the German world. German includes England. Speaking from these lofty heights, Hegel explains that Native America was physically and psychically powerless, so that it must expire as soon as spirit approached it. Hence, the Aborigines gradually vanished at the breath of European activity. According to him, they were inferior even to the Negroes, whose character has nothing harmonious with humanity. Entirely lacking in moral sentiments, they practice polygamy so as to have many children to sell into slavery, which is a benevolent institution, enabling them to become participant in a higher morality and the culture connected with it. They have such contempt of humanity, he said, that they allow themselves to be shot down by thousands in war with Europeans. Life has a value only when it has something valuable as its object, which is a thought beyond the grasp of creatures who are at the level of a mere thing, an object of no value. Such thoughts persist right to the present day. Liberal critics of the Vietnam War explained that the Asian poor used the strategy of the weak, inviting us to carry our strategic logic to its conclusion, which is genocide. But we are unwilling to destroy ourselves by contradicting our own value system. Soft humanitarians, we feel that genocide is a terrible burden to bear, William Pfaff and Townsend Hoops explained. Just a couple of weeks ago, strategic analyst Albert Volstetter added that the Vietnamese were able to bear the costs imposed on their subjects more easily than we could impose them, ideas that were just too noble for this cruel world. While Hegel lectured on the psychic disorders that caused the natives to expire as spirit approached, President Andrew Jackson announced his Indian Removal Act and explained that he was deeply moved by his generosity in having done my duty to my red children, namely by expelling the civilized tribes, who had in fact created a remarkably successful and productive self-governing society after having been brutally expelled in violation of other equally solemn treaties. If any failure of my good intention arises, Jackson said, it will be attributable to their want of duty to themselves, not to me. His lucky children were then driven at bayonet point on what they called the Trail of Tears. Perhaps half survived the generous and enlightened policy of the U.S. government as the operation was described by the Secretary of War, with the routine self-acclaim for unspeakable atrocities.